Hello, welcome to Football 301. I am Nate Tice, and I'm in LA with Charles McDonald. I got Mr. Verts right next to me. We don't have any delay on our stream, on our Zoom stream, our streamable stream. I don't think I even used the right company yet. But here we are in person to do this episode of Football 301. Very, very special episode. I mean, we're getting some takes off our chest, and then we're going to give some other preseason takes. Look at my big board a little bit longer at the end of the pod. And again, to help me do that, sitting right next to me is Charles McDonald. How you doing, Chuck?
I'm doing great. I get to sit next to you and see you in person instead of, virtually twice a week like we've been doing recently. So this is good. This is actually my first time ever in LA, my first time here at the Yahoo offices in LA. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I feel like every time I come out to the West Coast, I'm like, should I be living here? Should I be living here?
Best Coast. Best sports times, because there's no 8:30 kickoff Monday Night Football, which is, when I was in the league, that was the worst. It's like you actually hated Monday night games when you're in the league, because it's like you have to wait an extra day, you have to be in the hotel room all day, and then it's just 8:30 kickoff. It was the worst. I didn't even have to play, but just even me as a lowly coach. But like I said earlier, we're going to do some preseason stuff. I just have a couple takes I want to get off that I forgot on Tuesday's pod. Just a couple guys I want to talk about. We have some other takes we want to get off our chest. Varying degrees of these takes. Some maybe a little spicier than others, but things we just want to get out there before we start really ramping up. It's college football week 0. Like, we're here. Yeah. Week 1 college football is next week. NFL is the week after that. Like, we're here. And then, like I said, we're going to do some further big board thoughts of the 2025 NFL draft. We also have big news if you like money. Not as good of a segue as the last time, but Yahoo Sports.
Still like money, though.
Yeah, we still like money, though. We always like that. Yahoo Sports and NBC Sports are teaming up for a $1 million sweepstakes. All you got to do is sign up for a Yahoo Fantasy League before week 1. You get instant entry if you do that. Someone's got to win $1 million. Someone's got to do it by week 1. Details at yahoo.com/fantasy million. All right. We're going to start off with a couple preseason items. A season 1 character of Football 301 is Bo Nix.
Yeah.
And he was just named starter for the Denver Broncos, which kind of felt inevitable. I mean, it felt like after the draft, they were kind of like saying, yeah, this guy's going to be our guy right away. But Bo Nix is the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos. Where are you at with this, Chuck?
Well, I think when you said the Broncos have been saying that he's going to be their guy, is really underselling it, right? Because Sean Payton has been talking about this guy like he's just the greatest quarterback he's ever seen. This is going to be, we're going to reignite the late Drew Brees era stuff that the Saints were doing. So, and let's be real, there was no competition here at all. It's Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson, who they traded a late round pick for. Jarrett Stidham hasn't really done much of anything with the chances he's had in his career. Right. So it was going to be the Bo Nix show all the way. And then you have a good enough preseason performance where no one was going to bat an eye at you just handing him this job. So look, we'll see what happens. But we've been on the Bo Nix island, I feel like, a little bit by saying, we've seen this before. Yeah. We'll see it again. This is not anything special.
It's not the Bo Nix. Yeah, I know. It's not even like we're saying like terrible or anything. It's just that, we've seen the story. We've seen this. And like you said, we'll see how it all plays out. Sean Payton is a good coach. We kind of saw it those first couple of series, last preseason game, where he's dialing up some really good stuff for Bo Nix in that offense. The run game will be good. I don't know how the defense will be. They have some, like, the defense you keep coming back to. You're like, oh, Zach Allen. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, but Pat Surtain. Yeah. Okay. But then we'll see more. We'll see how Browning is, all these other players. But yeah, Bo Nix is a starter in Denver. Kind of felt expected, and the Cosmic Ballet moves on. And I also want to just quick bullet point on a couple other preseason standouts, because I didn't get to mention them the other day, and I don't know why I didn't, because that whole segment was to mention this one guy, and I never even mentioned him. And that's Carson Steele, running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, rookie, undrafted free agent, wearing number 42. And I'm going to call a spade. I think he got typecasted a little bit because his name's Carson Steele. He wears 42, and he's a white guy with long hair. So in the Chiefs roster, they put him at fullback. They're using him as a tailback, though.
Oh yeah,
as the number 2 tailback behind Isaiah Pacheco, who has been the beacon of health and has a hard running style. So have you checked out Carson Steele, or is this just my one flag I'm waving?
I've seen like some clips of him on Twitter running. He looks okay.
He looks okay. It's shocking me too.
Right. It's shocking, but it does kind of feel like this is the point that they've reached in the Patrick Mahomes experiment, where, hey, what if we put, a rock star back there, a running back?
He has a pet crocodile, apparently.
I'm trying to pet crocodile? Yeah. Is it Carson Steele? Yeah, he should start.
Yes, I know. It was one of those where I was like, okay, and all it started for me was I was going through the timeline on Twitter, scrolling. And all of a sudden I just see like rep counts for inside drill for the Chiefs. And it just kind of piqued my eye, just like scrolling by. I'm like, oh, early practice. Okay, looking. And then you see Pacheco, 4. And then I was expecting it was going to be Pierce, who was their other running back. And then I saw Steele, like 4. And I was like, huh. And you mean they got 4 reps with the first team. So I look at the roster. I'm like, isn't that the fullback? So he's blocking for him. And they're like, no, he got handoffs. And so I watched the first preseason game. Dude was like mowing the entire Jags defense down. He took down like 3 guys on his first rep. Yeah. And so I get it. So they're giving more reps. So I had to give him a shout out because, it might be a deep dynasty stash if you're into that kind of thing.
RB2 would be that'd be a big jump for him.
I know. But they like him because he does protection and everything. So yeah, Chip Kelly loved him at UCLA because he was a 1-year transfer there from Toledo or some small school. Ball State. It doesn't matter to me because now my OCD kicks in.
Sorry, Carson.
Ball State.
It does
Ball
matter.
State. The pride joy, David Letterman. Carson Steele. The other one was Jordan Whittington from the Rams. The Rams seem to always have some undrafted late round receivers. Some turn to Puka Nacua. Some turn in round 2, Tutu Atwell. Some are kind of all over the place, but another one standing out. He kind of came to mind because I was watching Texas for my big board, and then he had some nice plays, so I want to throw him out there. Any other guys come to mind after we did that?
Sure. No, I did laugh just a bunch at the Carson Steele fullback stuff because there's not a single rep that you can see on Twitter that's been posted where he's got his hand
ever
playing football, or playing fullback. So no, that's a real deal running back, and give him the respect he deserves because if things are lining up for him like how it seems, he's about to beat a former first round pick and Clyde Edwards-Helaire for that second RB role. And like you said, Pacheco hasn't been the beacon of health. Last year, the Chiefs running game was not actually all that efficient, even though Pacheco ended up having a nice season from a volume perspective. Who knows? Carson Steele, RB1.
That's it.
Are we here?
And they're saying they trust him, and that was all I needed to hear. Matt Nagy, Matt Nagy quotes, take with a grain of salt, but he did say he trusts them. That's why they want to give him more reps. It's a big offense. You got to mention the RB2. Where I'm talking about, I've seen so many discussions about the edge 2 for the Bears. It's like, okay, how about the running back 2 for the defending Super Bowl champs that have one of the best offenses in the league? This is a discussion that actually matters for this stuff. So, I wanted to give those kind of undrafted free agent guys a shout. Those are ones that came to mind. We had a quick little segment here, and I'm using this as a segue, so I'm stealing this, but Tom Brady gave his top 4 QBs. I want to just do a quick one-hitter. Agree or disagree with this? He went Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow.
I mean, the top 3, I feel like if those
hard to agree, right?
If those are not in your top 3, Mahomes, who's in his own class, obviously. Then you have Josh and Lamar, to me, who are in the next tier. 4, Burrow.
That's where
I don't know. That's the one where I
feel like this is we feel this way, but
right.
I feel like a lot.
No, but we're probably on an island as far as how we feel about Joe Burrow because obviously he's a good quarterback. He's a quarterback that can go to a Super Bowl and almost win a Super Bowl. But I just feel like in terms of what he can do on the field and maybe what he can't do on the field, he's just not quite in the class of Josh and Lamar. And we've seen, especially last year, when we know that Burrow was hurt and dinged up last year, we saw last year, there are some limitations to the way that he likes to run the offense. And when he eventually did go out for the rest of the season and they had the backup who's Jake Browning, who was in the
former Husky great.
Dude, they got to run like a real NFL offense, and it looked okay. So, and the thing is, Joe is capable of running that same offense. It's just more about maybe some of the buy-in sometimes because that is a stark contrast of how he burst onto the scene as a quarterback at LSU. And how that Heisman Trophy #1 pick season all came together for him. But it's just hard for me to put him, I would still put Herbert over him, which I know is a scorching hot take for a lot of people.
Spicy now.
But it's not a spicy take. It's really
when you
not.
get hurt, it goes by the wayside. Well, actually, no, Burrow got hurt too, and that's the thing. Yeah, I'm with you because I'm even on record with this, but I have Herbert in pretty high esteem, and I would have him above Burrow, and I have Burrow and Dak more closely related as far as in hierarchy tiers, maybe that next tier, lower tier 2, higher tier 3. To me, because of just some, I get it. He's a baller, all that stuff. He's got moxie and all those things. But when we're talking about actually grading these guys as an evaluator. It's that his arm is average. It's accurate, but it's not very strong. Like you said, it's a specific type of offense he likes. He doesn't like being under center, which actually it been pretty funny because then Browning goes under center a bunch. I know this isn't the end all be all, but just talking about grading all these guys and limitations. But with him, with seeing Browning do it and the offense working, Browning finished with a higher QBR than Burrow last year. And about the same, not the same exact reps, but decent amount of reps. Browning had 243 attempts and Burrow had 365 attempts. So, decent amount. And I think all of a sudden he's like, oh, we can do that? Oh, okay. Like kind of the excuse got taken away. So I kind of want to see where it is the next step. I also don't want to give away too many of my Burrow thoughts because he's going to be a tidbit in a minute.
But even think about what he said, a little earlier where you're talking about like Burrow and Dak Prescott kind of be on the same page. And I would agree with that. But I think for people outside of this sphere, that might seem very...
This couch.
Right, this couch. Like you get up off this couch, that might be a very inflammatory take.
I know.
But it's not really though, because obviously you can go to the heights of an NFL team, like the heights an NFL has to offer with the Super Bowl championship with Joe Burrow as your quarterback because he got so close to winning one just a couple years ago. But just in terms of like playmaking and what we can do on offense, I think it's fair to put a couple guys ahead of him.
Yeah, I think it's very fair. I know. I don't know. I want to get more Burrow in a sec, so I don't want to spit it. But I mean, use this as a segue to get into our takes we want to get off our chest because it actually leads nicely into both of our first ones. So these are going to be different ones. That was Tom Brady's list of top quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Okay. What was your first? This actually leads us nicely. I don't want to spoil it, but what is your first take you want to get off your chest? That it involves Tom Brady.
Oh God, I just felt like such the biggest hater here.
It's great.
And let me get this. Let me frame this first. I'm not a pocket watcher, okay? I'm not hating on anyone trying to get a check. All right. But at the same time, I've never quite understood why these companies will go out and pay some of these broadcasters what they pay them. Tom Brady, he's starting his career, his broadcasting career this year. And basically my point was, not my point, but what I said was, why the hell would anyone want to pay Tom Brady all that money to come here? Because I know for me, it could be two chimpanzees banging cymbals out there in the Monday Night Football booth, and I'm still watching, right? You could put my two dogs out there and they leave and just walk out the booth, halfway through the first quarter and don't come back for the next 3 quarters like they're liable to do. And I'm still watching that game because it's football. It's like the announcers, it's just white noise for me. So, right, it's wallpaper. So I've always been like confused that Tom Brady getting paid $30 million a year. Really? He's adding that much value?
What needle is that moving?
Like, right, what needle is that moving? Because I've got a ton of broadcasters that I don't particularly enjoy listening to, but that has never been a barrier between me turning on or turning off a football game, right?
It just becomes something you talk about. Like,
look, I've sat through a lot of Jonathan Vilma Falcons games before, okay? And I'll do it again this year. You want to know why? Because they don't actually matter that much.
I was going to be nice and not name names. That's a good one, though, because he's not nailing a lot of the stuff outside linebacker play.
Hey, good guy. You got to know the names of the players. Yes. I think that's a fair
I think
critique.
That is a fair ask and takes out past 2009. But it's when I that's how I've been with commentators, but I understand my background kind of maybe jades me to how I view games. Like most commentators for me are just like you said, white noise, like, and good or bad. Like I'm just going, whatever, he's wrong there. Mm-hmm. That's how I usually kind of think of them. It's fun when you do see a good, early Tony Romo. I still enjoy Tony Romo actually more than most people.
Me too. I think it's funny as hell.
Greg Olsen is doing good stuff. I get the take I want to get off my chest, I guess, and I wasn't even planning on saying this was, I do think that everyone gets overblown when they hear something new, even though it's the same thing that someone else has maybe said before. And then also they go, Greg Olsen just pointing out stuff we've never, ever heard in a football game before. That would say one thing I get a little annoyed with, but I'm kind of with you. But again, I'm not the general consumer of the game. So it doesn't move the needle for me as much, where I agree with you that maybe the paychecks don't match it as well.
See, I love Tony for just probably all the wrong reasons.
Just entertainment.
Right. He's just because he'll just get,
I don't know, Jim.
That's it. But he will take any moment that's just sitting there and just trample it. And that's I think it's so funny because it's so unpolished.
Yes.
And that's why I like it. That makes it good.
I know, because you don't want to be cookie cutter with this. I know. I have a whole take on that with the wrestling. You don't want it to be clean. You want some imperfections with it. Oh no, Romo, oh man. My favorite Romo things, sorry, I didn't go on a Romo talk, but is when he's trying to do some of the quarterback, when he's trying to talk about, Jim sets him up and goes like, hey, what are you looking at here? He's like, oh, you gotta look right there. And then the snap of the ball happens. You see the quarterback scrambling or something. He goes, oh, can't do that. Like whenever he says something like right away, that's what kills me. He's got great comedic timing, even if some of his maybe extended talks is a little ill-timed. So my segue for my take I want to get off my chest. And it has to do with Joe Burrow. And I've seen some clips of preseason practices, and I know you can't take away from everything for that, and just kind of piecing some things together. Is Joe Burrow kind of cooked this year, and are the Bengals kind of in a weird spot until cooked, meaning is he really not fully healthy, which I don't think he is. I know nothing on the inside about this, but shouldn't that make us worried about the Bengals offense? Even with Browning playing well last year, you pay Burrow to be Burrow, and other pieces around that offense are kind of question marks or going to be question marks, receivers, the tackles, all this stuff. Like, where are you at with Burrow? Am I maybe doing the kind of alarm bells a little bit too loud right now? Maybe just off a couple things I've seen and piecing together, but it just seems kind of like they're not all the way there with him. Like he's not all the way 100%. And maybe that's got me a little worried.
Well, with the Bengals this year, I think you've seen over the past couple of years, especially on defense, maybe some of the pieces have chipped away, not been retained.
Well, talent drain.
And you're losing some of your margin for error. Because if you remember, you go back to the year that they made the Super Bowl against the Rams. The Bengals offense was not actually all that good in the postseason, but they got just damn near heroic performance from the defense, especially when you go back to like the game they had against
the Titans. They had like 9 sacks.
Right, they had 9 sacks against the Titans. They bottled up the Chiefs game. They played well against the Raiders too.
That half against the Chiefs was the worst Patrick Mahomes has ever looked. Like,
right,
they always will have that.
Right, but that's not what they're dealing with anymore. I mean, even just Jesse Bates is gone from some of those defenses. You have DJ Reader who's left, and now we were just talking last week about Graham Barton looking like a damn Avenger against the Bengals defensive line. And I think that when you start piecing all of it together, it's like, man, you need Joe Burrow to be 100% healthy. Because if he's not, then you've walked into this place, or you found yourself in this place as a team in a franchise where your margins for error are razor thin, especially when you play Baltimore twice a year, when you're still competing against Josh Allen, you're competing against Patrick Mahomes, you're competing against who knows what the Browns can be within their own division this year. They kind of need Joe Burrow to be healthy, and if he's not, that's where you start feeling bad about, I think, the whole team, because he really is that important of a figure for them, and he's going to hold all of this together if they have real Super Bowl aspirations.
That's why you pay him $50 million. Is that $50 million a year, I should say? That's so kind of tying together the original point maybe we had with the Burrow ranking and everything, is that some of why I get a little concerned maybe long term even with him. Not saying like Burrow's going to retire in 2 months, guys, but just saying that is some of his athleticism, some of his arm strength, maybe because it's not exceptional. When you start with an average arm, it naturally deteriorates. That's just how age works, unless you're Tom Brady moving to Tampa Bay. And as your arm gets worse, okay, everything else has to be better because just how it works. He's already so smart and so accurate that I'm like, how much more can he tap into that world? Like as a guy, like we've talked about the Drew Brees, Bo Nick stuff. That's the thing that I think the misconceptions with Drew Brees. Drew Brees has an exceptional arm, was a good athlete. It's just that he grew into the nickel and dimers hyper efficient because his arm went away after the surgery kind of wore him over the years. Peyton Manning fell off a cliff. All these guys, the arm and the athleticism falls. Injuries kind of speed that up. And so that's where I'm just saying is like, okay, is this going to be like happen quick where it's like, oh, wow, that's just the new Burrow. And I don't want to like, maybe just looks just how he did in those couple of games when he came back before he got hurt again. But yeah, it's more of a cause for an alarm that I think maybe even I've kind of given it credit for, because you brought up all the other stuff deteriorating around, maybe the defense dropping off and all that. So yeah, just want to hear about the Bengals. I still have them as a top 10 offense though, because I can't help myself. Yeah, sorry, Ravens fans. But last one before we go to a break, we're gonna have Cowboys. This is us kind of, and now we saw a piece of news before we came on. We'll talk about it in a sec. But Cowboys have an equal chance of going to the Super Bowl as they do of missing the playoffs. And I think that's once kind of marinated on it sounds good.
It sounds about right.
Yeah.
It sounds about right.
Right.
Because the thing with the Cowboys is the offseason has been incomplete, right? Where they haven't signed Dak Prescott to a long-term deal. They haven't signed CeeDee Lamb to a long-term deal yet. They haven't signed Micah Parsons to a long-term deal yet. So you're kind of sitting there like, oh my God, what's next for this franchise? But you actually, if you could just focus on 2024 and the pieces that they have in place, this is not doom and gloom here. This is not even a bad roster. In fact, I'm still inclined to say it's a good roster, all things considered. And we talked about Tyler Guyton the other day, who did get injured today in practice, and we'll see what ends up happening there. We talked about Cooper Beebe, who's in line to potentially start as center for them. If those guys work out, dude, this is still an offense with Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb. You got Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland on the other side of the field. If Monty Smith ends up being anything, that's another boost. DeMarcus Lawrence is still here. Mike Zimmer is your defensive coordinator now. This is a good setup.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, the more I think about it, I don't see why this team can't win the NFC East.
Right.
But at the same time, if they end up going 9-8, because maybe your depth is a little bit thinner than it was in the past, that wouldn't be all too surprising either. It's the cop-out team.
It is a cop-out team.
Them and the Jets.
Because it's kind of been I think now my brain's gone same old Cowboys. I keep doing this every year. Oh, they have these question marks, depth, but they have the Dak and the defense. And same old Cowboys been a double-digit win team, competing for the NFC East.
Right,
It's not, even if there's a minor drop-off, like you said, it's the 9-8 thing, which, it's somewhere, that's where I'm at with them. Maybe it's that, they're 10-7 to me, but it's still 10-7, and actually they have some really good players, including a quarterback. I think maybe the Guyton and BB thing has helped a lot, and we'll see what Guyton's injury is. That's been a thing for him in college. But then getting a center who I think can play right away and actually be okay with a quarterback that's already done all that, because Dak's so mentally sharp, the center doesn't have to handle everything. That's going to be nice, I think, too, to help the transition. It's been thinking a lot about these Cowboys. The running back situation's a little dicey. We'll see. I know they like Rico Dowdle. Zeke's there. I love Zeke, but
okay. This is
what I would come back to. I got to bring the negatives with it.
This is a little bit of a tangent, but the other day, for YahooSports.com, we simmed a season of the new Madden game.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yes, and Ezekiel Elliott, it was burned into my brain. He rushed for 1,500 yards, 15 touchdowns, and averaged 5 yards a carry. And I was like, dude, what year is this?
This simulated 2016?
I thought it took me back in a time machine to 2016 when Zeke was actually capable of doing something like that.
Those are career highs.
But if the Cowboys get that Zeke, they're winning the Super Bowl, baby.
Yeah, exactly. No, that Zeke as a rookie got 1,600 yards, 1,631 for 15 touchdowns, 5.1 yards.
Yeah.
That's the only time he averaged over 5 in his career. So
yeah.
That way, Madden. What other things came up from the simulation?
The other thing I remember from the simulation was there were, and I was so stunned that I looked this up, there were 23 1,000-yard rushers. And the last time that happened was 2006. And there hasn't even been over 20 since 2006. And most of the time it's in between 8 and 12.
What do they know?
I don't know. But one thing they did know on the Madden sim was you guys will get a kick out of this. The Falcons went 3-14. Kirk Cousins threw for 3,100 yards, 20 touchdowns, 20 picks, and Bijan Robinson averaged 3.5 yards a carry.
I don't wish, no. I got a Bijan stock. I don't wish that they existed.
I was reading that and my heart dropped like it was real life.
Yeah, you're oh no. Yeah, you saw that timeline happen.
Yeah.
The timeline with the mustache.
Not impossible.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with some more takes off our chest and then some big board stuff. We are back with Football 301, live from LA. I feel like I have to do that. Just live from LA. Next up, we're going coast to coast here. Going with the Jets. I feel like I had to get a Jets take in here. And I actually do feel, because we were doing our top 10 offenses one, and this is kind of where I had them in my honorable mentions on my notes. And I kind of been in my head for a while. My take I want to get off my chest is the Jets offense has a real chance to be top 5. I know that's spicy. Not spicy at all. People have said this, but
it is at the same time.
It is at the same time. it's all predicated, and I feel like this is annoying and a cop-out when we're talking about that. It's all predicated on health. It really is, though. But when you look at an offense, Tyron Smith, when he played last year, he played most of the games, was good. He was still Tyron Smith. He wasn't maybe the all-world stats, but he still was good.
Silvo's second team All-Pro?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's a little name recognition.
Yeah, I know.
But, that's most O-line.
I was going to let it sit there.
That's most O-line. Yeah, Chris Lindstrom. But then also, John Simpson is boom bust as a guard, but again, better than what they had. They played all the games. I keep almost forgetting this. Fashanu, who they drafted and looked solid in the preseason. So they have depth there and high-end depth with pedigree and like a real potential good player, even if they have to go to that depth. We'll see with Elijah Vera Tucker, again, a good player if healthy. But the running game should be good because they're going to commit to it. That's what they do. That's what this Rodgers offense, I'm not even going to say Hackett offense. They're going to run through a bunch of smokes to Garrett Wilson. We know what this offense looks like. Like we joke about slant flat and all that with Mike McCarthy. That's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is slant flat, and that's what they're going to do. But why I'm saying that is that's going to help out the line. Rodgers knows how to operate it. They have enough weapons if Mike Williams, again, is healthy, but at least they have Garrett Wilson. And they at least have workable tight ends, even if they're not stars, they're workable. I think that's where I've come back to it, is that it's not as stars and scrubby as I thought, and maybe they have more workable pieces with a defense that's going to like keep them in games as well. Yeah. So
Son Reddick still out there
every day, man.
Still out there.
What's the fine at?
I don't know.
1.5.
It's impossible to know at this point. We might not even have a number for Hassan Reddick's fine to mount it up to.
So. Yeah, it hit $1 million at what day was it?
I mean, it hit $1 million a while ago.
That was August 12th. It hit $1 million. This is August 21st, 9 days later.
Right. So he's because every time he doesn't show up for even a preseason game, it's a bigger fine than not showing up to practice. So Hassan,
show up,
go to work,
just hang out, in shorts. Just go to meetings.
You don't even have to do anything. Just
call a hold in.
Just stop bleeding money.
All the cool kids are doing it.
Jets top 5 offense.
Just how you get it out there.
It just feels like the Cowboys kind of, but even worse in terms of like just a cop out team.
Yeah.
Because it's like a math equation. It's like if X then Y. If Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy, if Tyron Smith can stay healthy,
just the medical health. Yeah.
If Mike Williams can stay healthy, Mike Williams said he feels fine the other day, so we'll see. If Olu Fashanu can stay healthy and also play well,
that's also another thing with him. I know.
It's fragile, but in the the Madden world where I can turn injuries off and turn pre-existing injuries off, this is one of the more talented offenses in the league. Still, I think, it's like building like a house out of a deck of cards, right? Like you lose one little thing and the whole thing could come falling apart. It's real fragile. But I am excited for Garrett Wilson to have the opportunity to catch passes from Aaron Rodgers. Because I remember last year when Aaron tore his Achilles, he spoke to Garrett Wilson, told him sorry. And it's understandable because
of what happened after.
And we know that Garrett is good enough to have one of these seasons where he's a fantasy darling and taking over the world, but he hasn't had the quarterback play to do it. And I think even a diminished Rodgers is still probably good enough for him to get that season that he's really looking for.
That's I know, just being realistic with it, it's like a 40-year-old coming off an Achilles is not something you bet on. It's just that I still, like you said, even if it's for me, it's like 70% of what I think of Rodgers. Like that last year with Rodgers where he didn't care with Green Bay. That's kind of what I'm picturing his level at. so it's like he like it's kind of like, okay, he's diminished, but he's actually trying. But that's where he's actually
QB 13,
QB somewhere in the mid-teens.
Yeah,
but again, that's better than worst QB play in the league, like by far. And like some of those games, oh man, I've watched some of them pretty recently, and it's just not a lot of fun to watch back. All right, going on to another AFC team, an AFC playoff team last year, the Browns. Jameis Winston. I like this take, but yeah. Jameis Winston ends the year, meaning the regular season or the playoffs. Jameis Winston ends the year as the Browns' starting quarterback.
Well, it's not a hot take. I don't think.
Not.
Because
he's had better film than Deshaun Watson has.
Well, Deshaun Watson's been hiding from us because he's only played. I remember I pointed this out to you.
Yes.
A couple days ago.
What was the number? I looked it up.
He's played 12 games as the Browns quarterback.
I looked it up. It was like $150,000 per snap.
Yeah. He's played 12 games. So the history suggests he's not even going to play most of the games this season for the Browns. That seems like a crazy thing to say right now, but it felt crazy to say last year if I told you that he was end up playing 6 games for them last season.
And Joe Flacco outplay him.
6 games.
Yeah.
And then 6 games the year before because he had the suspension. Like, what are we paying this money for? This is crazy. The Browns, it's funny because they have kind of positioned themselves to have a decent stable of backup quarterbacks. Because if you're going to walk into a season with Deshaun Watson, who, again, has played 12 games for the Browns, 12 since the 3 first-round picks plus the fully guaranteed $255 million contract. 12 games. You've got Jameis Winston and Tyler Huntley. That sounds to me like you are prepared for something to not go right this season.
It's sometimes the teams are telling you what they think.
Mm-hmm. Pro Bowl quarterback Tyler Huntley.
Yeah. Right. Were you there for that?
I was there. I actually asked him about that. I asked him, I was like,
he's supposed to be great, right? Like,
well,
he kind of like, yeah.
It was great because I asked him, I was like, Tyler, were you prepared to see this? He was like, no, actually. He was like, I was just hanging by the pool on off-season mode and then about to get ready for off-season mode, and I get a call. Say, I'm going to the Pro Bowl. He said he did a backflip and started running around.
Well, I would too. Free trip to Vegas the whole week. God.
Backup quarterback.
God, it's the best life. I'm telling you. No, but that's a great point with the Jameis, going after Jameis thing. It seemed like last year they were trying to do, this is kind of one of the fake smart things here, was backup quarterbacks are the money ball. You draft them because then you get them cheaper. That's the thing. I see Adi nodding his head over there because the Patriots tried to do that for years. Jacoby Brissett still in the league, one of them. But I think this year they went, let's just get the sure thing that we know can play quarterback for us rather than trot out DTR and see that dice roll and see what happens there, and getting guys that can run the offense. Jameis is very smart. He's good in the play action offense. If that, they're going to run a bunch of that. So I don't know. I almost want to see it with him more than I want to see it with Deshaun Watson. Next one is, this was both of us, I think. Kind of, we marinated on this. NFC North is really tough. So we want to get off our chest. This is a co-op take. Vikings will make the playoffs. I'm just going to leave it at that.
It's just I'm
going to let you go, actually.
The will part is just tough. Can, I'm with you.
We're getting off our chest. Okay, you're okay.
Can, I'm with you all the way.
We're compromising to can make the playoffs.
Okay, because
can.
It's just, I know that if you were prognosticating and looking forward, you're probably going to have them 4th place in the NFC North. But when you just start looking at where they are, it's a top-heavy roster. But you're still looking at like Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones, TJ Hawkinson, just as a skill group on offense. The offensive line solid. Christian Darrisaw just got paid this offseason. I know that he's got a lot of fans amongst people who like to watch offensive line play. And then you go to the other side on defense. I have no reason to really believe that the defense will get a whole lot worse. I know that losing to Neil Hunter is tough, but Dallas Turner so far looks like he's a great fit in Brian Flores' defense. It's been a bit interesting week for Brian Flores, but he should be looking forward to having at least a good team to kind of
take it out on.
Take it out on, and coach this season.
His players stuff for him. I don't know. If you want my take on that whole thing, it's just that I feel like some things stay private, and that's all I'll say about it. Fine. Yeah,
but I think we just when you look at the Vikings in general, this team, it's hard to imagine to me, especially when you look at Kevin O'Connell, the coaching staff, plus the top end talent they have, a scenario where they just totally bottom out and just suck. That's hard for me to see, even with lose JJ McCarthy and you're going to go with Sam Darnold for 17 games.
Nice roll, Sammy.
That you can maybe hit enough high variance upswings where maybe you could win 10 games. I really don't think that's possible.
When you usually see a team bottom out, it's a bad offensive line, a really bad defense, or bad quarterback, or bad coaching. I feel like Flores, at the very least, even if you're not a fan of it, is at the very least average, as a play caller. I think he's good, and he's also unique, where that's always the thing too. So when you have a unique defense or offense, you kind of get like a little booster, like just a little bit more of an effect on the other opposing team because you're hard to play against and prepare for. You mentioned that they lost to Neil Hunter. they have some guys like Grenard like that kind of like makeshift it. They're also such a blitz happy team that they kind of like manufacture those sacks. So it's like one of those that if it were a 4-down only rushing team, I would be like a little bit more concerned, but they're so funky that they kind of make up for it.
It's for the gamers here. It's the min-max defense.
Yes, it is the min-max defense.
You're dropping 8 or you're sending 6. There's not a whole lot of in between.
Nope.
It's fun.
The stat, I've talked about this before, but I'll find this chart, but you could look at just who brought 4 pass rushers only, just only 4. So not 5, not 3, yada, yada. And the Vikings were so low on it because they were bringing 3 or 5 or more, blitzing or dropping everybody. So it's like, oh yeah, everybody's kind of in a funny spot, and then they're just like all the way off in their own little corner. But that's what their defense does, and it makes it hard. You brought up O'Connell. O'Connell's a great, I would say, a good play caller, above average at the very least. And they also have an offensive line that's workable. So that's why I just kind of keep coming back to it. Like, this team was decent last year, and I know it's Sam Darnold, and I know we're saying that he can be at least average. And but like you said, the variance of it, they can get
tough
hot
out, yeah.
And the NFC is wide open. And I even know they're in a tough division. I think it's just, I don't know. I keep coming back to the Vikes. Keep coming back to a few of these teams. All right. Now we will be back in a minute with my 2025 preseason big board. A few thoughts on that. All right. We are back. We're going to gaze at some navel here. We're going to look at my big board. It's coming out by the time
you had some navel.
Yeah. By the time this I just sat here and marinated on that, thought about it. Well, yeah, as you guys should be listening to this, my big board should be up on Yahoo. So make sure to check that out. It'd be I did top 40, a couple honorable mentions after that. Some people do 30, some do 50. I did 40. I don't know. That sounded nice. Yeah, 2025 big board. A couple thoughts. I mentioned this a little bit the other day. We went over the top 10. It's a really good edge class. It's a good tackle class, a good corner class. That always gets the clicks. But it is it's just a unique class because there's so much talent at edge and running back as well. But the quarterback and receiver positions are a little, I wouldn't say dire, but just you're picking at it. I'll say that my first quarterback is not ranked until 23rd. And that is Riley Leonard from Duke, transferred to Notre Dame. I can't quit him.
Go Dogs. Carson
Beck
all the way.
So because this is how I copped out. So Leonard's 23rd, Beck is 24th.
Okay.
They're right next to each other. So yeah, Beck is clean. I really like him. He just looks like a pro. Like, he's tall. He's got good size. Better athlete than I thought he would be. Mm-hmm. And he's just, nice mechanics and everything. He's consistent. Just kind of want to see it just a little bit quicker, which just comes with time. So I even said in my write-up, I go, if Beck ends up QB1, I wouldn't be shocked. Like, it's just because of his profile and everything. But Leonard, he's accurate. He can run. He's tough. He's going to be in a better system, better offense this year. I don't know, man. He's got some real traits, and like, he can throw guys open, and like, he can move, and he's big. He's 6'4", like 220 or so. I think he's just going to really come on this year, like just like as the year goes along, and have a bigger spotlight on him. I'm not saying he's not even a first round grade for me. It's just that he's QB1 by default. That's kind of how it goes. QB3 was Shedeur Sanders, Colorado. I have a longer write-up on him. Yeah, he's 31 overall, my big board. Same thing. Don't see him as a first rounder yet. Got a good arm. Takes too many sacks, and I know a lot of people want to blame the offensive line. I think he works backwards in the pocket too much, which is a big no-no. He's an okay athlete. I don't even say good. He's okay. But he does have a good arm. Like, when he wants to spin it, he feels clean. He can throw some digs. He can throw some benders. It's just that got to see it more. And you got to see it more in the realms of the offense. So
you're going to have some lint in your navel after Colorado fans get a hold of that one.
It already happened. I already wrote him off. If you want deeper thoughts, check that out on Yahoo as well. I also had Connor Weigman from Texas A&M. He's fun.
He got hurt last year, right?
Yeah, he only played like a game and a half, 2.5 games. The Miami game is kind of the one you have to watch. He's moves in the pocket well. He can really spin it. That's kind of just a heat check one. All these guys are heat check guys.
I felt like I was going crazy after the season when, I started seeing people like Connor Rogers and other people who do draft work in the offseason looking ahead, talking about Connor Weigman. I was like, did I miss something?
Yeah, some guy, especially in A&M too.
Yeah, A&M, like an FCC school. Like, as a Georgia, feel like I'm locked into this, bro. And I look back and like, okay, he got hurt. So I'm not going crazy.
I'm extrapolating. I mean, a lot of these guys, it's a weird class because it's like game manager types, just like Beck a little bit. Leonard has some creativity to him. And I mean, shoot, even Shadur's kind of game manager type. But then you got all these other guys that are just total dart throws. Like Weigman had he has 250 pass attempts in his career. Like he's barely played, and he's played 9 games total. He played 4 last year. But like when you see he does the real things, like hang in the pocket movement, all that stuff, and man, it's all about throwing their teammate open. And like when you see that, it kind of like go, oh, okay, because it's like you do it or you don't. If you don't do it, I'm not even gonna like spend any time on you. He can do it. The other one, and this is kind of one of my little babies of this draft so far. Might be way too early on this. Byron Brown, quarterback from South Florida.
That's all you know nothing about him.
I am at 36, and this is a total tilting the shoulder up, swinging for the fences here. I might be a year early. He's only a redshirt sophomore. He operates in that kind of Tennessee super spread offense.
The Bryles Looney Tunes stuff.
Yeah, so it gives me some heartburn watching it, and I know college football fans go, well, they scored points, so who cares? But it's an evaluator, it stinks. But watching him, when you see him out of structure, when you see him actually get to play football and he's not mechanical, that's where it's like, oh, okay. You see, again, throwing guys open. He's got a real live arm. Throws kind of the long ball is not great. I'd say it's okay, but he can throw through a wall in front of him. But he's a good athlete. He can throw while getting hit. He can change arm angles. It's kind of like most offenses that really helps quarterbacks out because it makes it easy on them. Him, I want to see in any other offense because it's like I want to see him go and do some fun things rather than be so mechanical. So that's kind of him and Riley Leonard.
So that's the pitch to watch USF football this year.
Yeah, check him out. Check out some USF football. Like they're going to score points, but
I will. I honestly will now because before
he's fun. Like he's legit fun. They play Alabama September 7th. Might be ugly, but they play him. So, yeah, Bethune-Cookman before that. So, but I'm telling you, he's got something to him. And there might be, again, like I say, it might be a year away when he becomes a real prospect, but I kind of want to throw him on this list to see what kind of thoughts were on people. I'll just get real quick, a couple defense guys. I have Travis Hunter as just a corner. We talked about this a little bit the other day. Corner is loaded overall. Like there's a guy from East Carolina that's pretty good. There's a lot of good corners in this class. We talked about Will Johnson the other day. There's Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame. I mentioned Denzel Burke, Ohio State. Siobhan Revell, East Carolina. Just mentioned him. He's got some good size. I had him in my top 40 as well. But then last one, top 2 guys. Michael Williams. I didn't even talk to you about Michael Williams the other day. What are your thoughts on Michael Williams? Because he's Georgia. He was my number 1 prospect on my big board. And I think this extrapolating from a little bit.
Right. That's what I would say. You're extrapolating a little bit. I think this year is huge for him. Because to me, last year was the year where it's like, oh my God, like you're so close. You're like right here to being one of the most dominant players in the entire country. And now to me, it's just like, how can you speed up your process just a little bit so you can get actually home and finish some of these plays that you're starting? But you're not going to find too many guys like that size that can move like that. And I really do think maybe with some of what we're seeing from Trevon Walker in Jacksonville, where he's not a dynamite number 1 edge rusher, but we've seen more pass rush out of him in Jacksonville than what we saw at Georgia.
Yes.
So way more. And I think that it's really just like I don't know how much of this is made like national conversation, but like reckoning with the style of defenses that colleges are playing now and how it translates for NFL pass rushers. Because Michael is someone who I think when I watch him play, his style of play is much better suited for the NFL game than playing like these mint in tight fronts where you're going to be stuck at 4-eye, even though you're like 265 pounds and it's not really all that conducive for you. Like through Iowa State a couple years ago, they had Will McDonald who weighs 240 basically playing defensive tackle. Right. And that's the weird part where college football finds the defenses in. But you also have to play to what's in front of you. And it does help to play that way against all the spread stuff. It does. Right.
And we might see more of it in the NFL. I came back to it. It's frustrating because you see like 2 good plays. You're like, yes. And then you don't see him on the field again for like a quarter because they rotate their guys. So you're, okay, I got 20 plays to work with here.
You got the playing time deal breakers.
Yes. Yeah. Playing style deal breakers for me. Yeah. Yeah. So you got like 6 plays a game that I get. It's almost like JJ McCarthy for quarterbacks where it's just like, all right, I got 5 plays to work with here. Okay, cool. And then it took the whole season. But that's why he has 26 solo tackles in 28 games. He only had 4.5 sacks last year. And I even say, it's like, so why is he so high on my board? Dude is long, he can bend, and he's really strong. And it's like, can't find those guys. And like you said, he's lined up so much inside. He's still good at it. It's just that in the NFL, he's going to line up way wide and just get to go. And that's what you want to get to see. And that's why I think he's going to show more this year. Number 2 was Penn State edge Abdul Carter. Same kind of thing where he wears number 11. So everyone's going to say Micah Parsons. He played as off-ball linebacker this past year, even though he played some on the edge. And then now they're transitioning him to the edge. So everyone's saying, oh, he's like Micah Parsons. So people were saying that about last year about Chop Robinson. These comparisons, though, actually kind of sort of work for Carter. Like, he is twitchy. He is freaky. He does the things you can't teach. He plays hard. He's strong. So that's what you always want to see when the guys are twitchy. Can they, is it twitch to strength kind of thing? Are they able, wiry strength, I should say, are they able to outplay if they're 248? Can they still push back a tackle that's 310 pounds? He can do that. He's moving to the edge full time this year. I think he's going to be a terror. I was pretty excited having him at number 2. And that was Dan Brugler from The Athletic, who does amazing work, came out with his big board today, and he had him at number 2. And we were texting last night. He goes, where do you have Carter? I go 2. And he goes, God dang it, so did I. We both thought we were going to be the one that had him at high. So we both had him at 2. But if he ends up at 1, I wouldn't be shocked. Like, he's pretty sick. And so I just want to people get eyeballs on Abdul Carter this year. Yeah. That was a live show. Not really a live show. It's a in-person show. Yeah. We got an audience here.
Yeah.
Of 3. It's great. They're all clapping. Brett's looking at his phone, so never mind. But yeah, we're closing it out today. We'll be back on Tuesday. It's going to be fun, as always. I'm Nate Tice. You can find me at Nate_Tice. This is Charles McDonald. Where can they find you, Chuck?
Find me on Twitter at 4Verts. It's been great being here in LA and looking back to getting, sitting in my own office and
playing Dynasty,
being far away from you.
Playing Dynasty. Let's go back over the headset. This is enough in-person talking, but please subscribe to us, rate us, follow us, do all those good things. Watch us on YouTube, Yahoo Sports YouTube channel. You can also follow Yahoo Sports on Snapchat if you're into that kind of thing. We're also going to be doing a mailbag in the future, just like we did last week. So send those questions. The email is football301mailbag@yahoosports.com. Emails are great. You can do the little voice thing. I'm telling you guys, please. It's a lot of fun to hear you guys. We, like I said to the producers, once the games get going, I think we'll get those in. But thanks to the guys here, Brett, Stone, Addy, whole production crew back there, apparently. Just to see me and Chuck talk ball.
Yeah.
Give off our Joe Burrow takes from a couch together that surely no one will be upset about. But thank you guys so much for all your help. Thanks, Chuck. See you guys next time.